All right, folks, we're gonna talk about hyaluronic acid in skincare. Now, don't get confused by hyaluronic acid that's used in fillers. HA is a very, very popular molecule. Like I said, it's been used for years in fillers, and now it's become so widely talked about and well-known in the realm of skincare and anti-aging. But there are some very important nuances that you're gonna wanna understand before you start applying this and incorporating into your skincare routine. So make sure you check out this entire video. You're gonna learn a lot and you're gonna find it to be fascinating for this little interesting molecule. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Karam. I'm a board-certified facial plastic surgeon and founder and creator of KaramMD Skin. I specialize in facial rejuvenation, which basically means I help people look as young as they feel. And on today's episode of Skin School, we're gonna get into the nuts and bolts and understand what hyaluronic acid is and how it can be incorporated in skincare in a very successful and meaningful way. But before we do, there's a lot about it that you need to understand, like all the other topics that we talk about. We want you to be fully informed and totally empowered to make excellent decisions for yourself. So without further ado, let's break it down. So hyaluronic acid is a naturally occurring molecule, which what that means is unlike retinols and even vitamin C's that your body doesn't produce, hyaluronic acid exists in the body completely naturally. Your body actually produces it. And where is it found? It's found in the skin. It's the lubricant in all of your joints. It's in the extracellular matrix of almost every single tissue. So it's kind of like one of those ubiquitous, common molecules produced in the body. Some interesting caveats about it. Once it's produced in a free hyaluronic acid form, and it typically lasts between 24 hours to 36 hours before it gets degraded, and then your body recycles it and you produce more. It belongs to a category of molecules called glycosaminoglycans, and that's basically just a sugar polysaccharide type of a chain that functions in the tissues as either a lubricant or as a hydrator. And this is important. You're gonna understand why this is gonna be so important, especially when it comes to skin. So a couple basic things about it. So we mentioned that it's naturally occurring, your body produces it, but when we're going to use it as an extra, when we're gonna basically take it from an outside source and add it to our body, it has to be manufactured and produced somewhere. Where is it produced? So the typical areas where hyaluronic acid or the typical manufacturing process, nowadays it's mostly produced by bacteria. A lot of really interesting ingredients and things like that are actually produced as byproducts of genetic engineering bacteria. You can use this, pull hyaluronic acid out, go through obviously the entire purification process, and end up with this gooey, slippery type of a substance that has incredible effects throughout the body. Traditionally, it was often used through breakdown of animal products. For example, the red part of a rooster, the rooster comb, a lot of hyaluronic acid in there was broken down, used in that way. A lot of reasons for moving away from that type of processing technique and going into the laboratory with it. It's much more pure, much more efficient. Also, there's ethical and environmental concerns, obviously, with using it that way. But let it be known that at the end of the day, we have plenty of opportunity to produce hyaluronic acid for, like I said, a lot of different sources, from fillers to skincare products. All right, so when it's found in skincare products, what is the application? What are we using it for? Fundamentally, it's a hydration product. So you'll find it in a lot of different moisturizers, creams, anti-aging products. And I'm gonna explain specifically the anti-aging aspects in a minute, but also you're gonna find it in certain types of wound care situations where you're trying to speed up the recovery of a wound. You're gonna use hyaluronic acid type products to create that optimal wound environment so that things heal up as quickly as possible with as little scarring as possible. But let's switch gears and let's really focus on the principles of hyaluronic acid and why you should care about it when it comes to deciding if you're going to incorporate it into your skincare routine. Remember, when we're talking about fillers, you're injecting hyaluronic acid into the tissues and you're trying to get a plumping effect. And remember all those videos that I talked about, some of the dangers and challenges and all this other stuff about hyaluronic acid fillers like Restylane, Juvederm, and all that other stuff being used? Well, one of them is the concept that the face becomes too puffy after continued use year after year, month after month, whatever. And the reason for that is the principal function of hyaluronic acid is it attracts water. It's like a sponge. And that's a beautiful thing in the appropriate doses when it comes to fillers and things like that, but it can also go haywire when it attracts too much water and the face becomes like puffy like a balloon. Now, in skin, we're gonna basically take that water-loving characteristic and we're gonna use it to our advantage because remember when skin ages, what does it do? One of the functions of skin aging is it becomes dehydrated. It becomes not as efficient at pulling water in and becoming plump. So what do we see with skin that is aging? You see skin that is kind of like flaccid, that's kind of dull and crepey, doesn't have that same turgor, that same suppleness that young skin does. And that process, a lot of it is tissue water that's being drawn into the skin and causing the skin to plump up and stay nice and full. Well, natural occurrence of hyaluronic acid along with collagen, along with elastin, begin to diminish as time goes on. As we age, we lose all those things that make the skin look more youthful and plump and beautiful and all the other good things. However, what we're gonna do is, like we do with retinols, we try to bypass the lack of collagen production. We're gonna bypass the skin's ability to produce hyaluronic acid naturally, and instead we're gonna feed it hyaluronic acid. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind here. When we think about anti-aging, we're thinking about changes that are happening to the structure of the skin. Remember, as collagen begins to diminish, the skin becomes thinner, it becomes more crepey and broken down, fine lines and wrinkles form, etc. So what you're doing when you're using a retinol product or a vitamin C product, as we talked about in several other videos, you are basically going into the cell, almost like you're turning on the cell to produce collagen through this DNA and genetic process, etc. It's basically molecular medicine being used there. When you're using hyaluronic acid in contrast, you're not imposing a physical genetic change on the tissue. You're not making the skin make anything more. You're simply adding something to the skin that the skin can then use temporarily to appear more youthful. And this is very, very important distinction. I want you to think about this for a second. When you're using retinol and vitamin C, etc., you're actually making skin younger. Keep this in mind, you're making it younger by doing the things that young skin does. When you're using hyaluronic acid, you're not actually making the skin younger. You're giving it a more youthful, younger appearance temporarily. And why do I say temporarily? Because the free hyaluronic acid molecules, the one that are floating around and that you add, literally aren't gonna last you more than 24 to 36 hours. So you're getting a short-term improvement, but a meaningful one, and I'm gonna explain why that's meaningful. But I don't want you for a minute to confuse the fact that you're using hyaluronic acid and you're actually making your skin younger, because the minute you stop using it, you go right back to where things were, but you've also aged however many months or years in between that period of time. It's just, normal. But that doesn't make it worthless or not important, and I'm gonna explain why. When skin loses its natural composition of water, it becomes dehydrated and deflated. When you bring that water back to the tissue, you can almost immediately see a beautiful plumpeting of the skin that makes the skin look prettier, more youthful, and consistent with what young skin looks like. So you get a quick bang for your buck, right? It's kind of, you do this, what do you see in your skin? You see decreased fine lines and wrinkles, you see skin that's a little plumper, you see skin that looks prettier, and it gives you instant gratification. And that's important when it comes to this skincare journey, because at the end of the day, if you don't get some instant gratification and you're just playing this, long-term game, guess what? You might feel like not much is happening, because the changes that occur with retinol and vitamin C and niacinamide and all those other, really important ingredients, those are happening slowly. They're sort of like undercover, making the skin younger, but it's happening over months and years, changes. But with a product like this, boom, you put it on, immediately you start to see some changes. Immediately things look a little bit better. And that's really important. So now let me back up for a second and explain my rationale. And as I mentioned, I formulated the trifecta, which is my skincare routine. But why did I include sodium hyaluronate, which is, I'm gonna explain to you, a derivative of hyaluronic acid. It's in the category, but there's a reason why I chose it instead. Well, number one, the product's original intention was to give long-term anti-aging, to actually change the structure of the skin. That's why I've always advocated for you guys that everyone should be on retinols and vitamin C and niacinamide, and I've listed all those ingredients. But many people are gonna get discouraged if they're not seeing quick changes, so boom, you're gonna use this. But in addition to kind of like soothing your mind out, it's actually really important because, as we talked about, at the fundamental level, the retinols and vitamin C, et cetera, they're not bringing water into the tissues. They're not addressing the problem related to dehydration of the skin with aging. So you really do need both. And both of them work better than alone. And that's really why I've personally made sure that our Illuminate, which is the third step of the trifecta, includes that in there. Includes both the long-term impacts as well as the short-term impacts, but also bringing these two kind of like multifaceted approaches to skincare. That's the practical side of it. So if you're gonna go out and get one thing, just understand what you're missing when you do that. If you only get a hyaluronic acid, you're not getting the long-term changes. If you go with the retinols and vitamin C, you're not getting the improvement in hydration. So you see how that works? They're all kind of like a part of the multifaceted approach to anti-aging effects on skin. And that's why when people do a comprehensive approach like they do with the trifecta, or go out and buy these individual products separately and include them, what they see is a big, beautiful change in their skin over time. And that's important to keep in mind. So a question that comes up a lot is, can I use hyaluronic acid if I have sensitive skin? For this particular ingredient, there's almost no issue. Unlike there are sometimes with retinols and vitamin C and some of these other ones, there are no issues with sensitivity. So feel completely comfortable applying it to your skin. You're gonna see lovely results regardless. And there's almost no kind of like combination things inside of it that could create some issues for you. So feel free with it. Good product to include in your routine. I mean, honestly, if anything, it could actually decrease problems with sensitivity because it soothes the skin. It actually decreases redness. It's just a positive lubricant for the skin because, again, youthful skin has a plenty amount of natural hyaluronic acid in it. All right, so here's the question. So do I need to use hyaluronic acid every day? Hyaluronic acid absolutely should be used every day because if you take a few days off, guess what? We just talked about, you go right back to baseline, right? So if you're using it every day for a period of time, your skin's gonna just keep getting this additive effect of hydration, plumpness. You're gonna see decreased fine lines and wrinkles. You're gonna just see the skin's turgor and strength and everything look a little bit better. And then it gets better the second week, third week, and it just keeps kind of building on itself. To a certain point, it'll plateau because imagine, the cup starts from empty and it's now full. It's not gonna get more full than that. Now, why is it important to do it every day? Well, because once you stop using it, all that hyaluronic acid that you just added into your skin, you're going through recycling. Some is going in, some is being degraded. Some is going in, some is being degraded. So at the end, you have a net fullness there, right? But if you just completely stop, or you take a week or 2, 3 off, guess what? You go right back to being dehydrated in your skin and you lose that plumpness. So it's so important, just like all the other ingredients that we talked about, that hyaluronic acid is used consistently so that the changes that you're enjoying can be enjoyed for longer. Don't think that it's like you've made these changes in your skin and you can kind of walk away from it and you're gonna be able to enjoy it for the next 3 months. No, it needs to be fed. You need to continuously refill the cup that is losing, hyaluronic acid on a regular basis, losing water on a regular basis. And keep in mind, hyaluronic acid is like 1,000-fold in terms of its ability to draw water per molecule. So it's like incredibly powerful as a water grabber and a water, promoter and hydrator. So that is why it's so impactful to use it, and you see it, boom, right away, but you gotta use it consistently. Not all hyaluronic acids are made equally. And there's 2 categories. There's high molecular weight hyaluronic acid, and there's low molecular weight hyaluronic acid products. High molecular weight basically means that it's bigger, and as we all know, the skin barrier function is to prevent anything from just simply getting through the skin. So the bigger a molecule is, the harder it is for that molecule to penetrate into the skin and do all the wonderful things that we're talking about. So what does it do? It just sits on the surface of the skin and then it degrades and washes off whatever it's done. There's some benefit there because there's some, surface level improvement that you can see with it, but getting into the dermis, the deep part of the skin, is really where the magic would happen. So a lower molecular weight hyaluronic acid is really the ideal. And which ones should you look for? Well, sodium hyaluronate. So it's sodium hyaluronate, it's a salt. It's a derivative of hyaluronic acid, smaller, and it's a salt, meaning that it has a sodium attached to the hyaluronate. And that molecule is much smaller and it's able to penetrate much deeper into the skin. And when it penetrates deeper into the skin, it does all those good things where it matters. This is why, when I was formulating the trifecta, specifically the Illuminate, I had a choice, obviously, between low and high. Guess what I chose? It's no brainer. I'm going to choose sodium hyaluronate. Sodium hyaluronate, for the reasons I mentioned, gives you much more versatility and impact on the skin. No question. So there you have it. That's what you should, in my opinion, what you should be looking for. There's been a lot of talk about this topic, and I think it's rightful that, not all hyaluronic acids are doing anything for the skin. So you're buying all these products out there. And this is, I guess, the challenging thing for you sometimes is, you think, oh, hyaluronic acid, I'm going to go get it. And then you buy a higher molecular weight hyaluronic acid, and literally you're just throwing your money away. It's not doing a whole lot. For example, these are the considerations. So knowing these little details can improve the efficiency and efficacy of the products that you use. And when it comes to these particular points that I'm just mentioning between the difference between sodium hyaluronate and hyaluronic acid, you're gonna see that on the ingredient deck. So always make sure you review the actual ingredients that are in a product and don't just grab a bottle. And I'm actually surprised that I don't do this very often, but once in a while I'll go through, I'm in a department store and I'll grab some product. It's always like, the prettiest packaging and this and that and the other thing. And it has something related to anti-aging serum or whatever. And I grab it and I look at it and I'm shocked at how often I can, just on the actual bottle, I don't even see necessarily like what this product is. Like, what are we talking about here? And the ingredients are usually so small, it makes it so difficult to read or whatever it is. But you got to take the extra steps to go in there and really try to look for what is the beneficial ingredients for it. So don't make mistakes on this type of stuff, because I've said this and I'm gonna say it again. There is an opportunity cost to mistakes. What that opportunity cost is every time you make a mistake along the way of choosing the wrong thing to do, well, your skin is literally just aging without any type of restoration or sort of redirection. It's just continuously going forward. Like, let's just say hypothetically, like we did this whole video on hair loss for women, and we talked about, how, for example, the use of minoxidil can be very beneficial to preventing hair from falling out in the first place. Well, let's say you start to see some hair loss and you made two choices. Choice one, you chose not to use any type of minoxidil. And then another choice, you said, I'm going to use a 5% or 10% minoxidil. I'm going to use it every day, twice a day, diligently going forward. Two totally different choices. Let's say a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you made the decision not to use it, and then you decide you're going to use it because now, like, you lost a bunch of hair and you're like, I'm going to get on this. Well, guess what? That 2 or 3 year gap that you've lost all that hair, you're not getting it back. You had an opportunity cost. That cost was permanent loss of hair from that point forward. So you see, decisions are not just without consequence. They are real consequence. The person who just made that decision to stay on minoxidil, they're gonna see their hair intact and they're gonna have a fuller head for a longer period of time. The other person is gonna be starting at a less dense level and then hopefully, maintain it from there. Point though is, with this type of stuff, with retinols being used, with all this other thing, not doing the right thing for your skin means that your skin continues to age. And at some point when you decide you're gonna take it super seriously and try to restore things, it's gonna, unlike hair, you're gonna be able to get a lot of it back, but it's gonna take longer and you're gonna be starting at a lower spot. So it's much better to get on this stuff, the sooner the better, right? It's just a simple reality of this type of approach to anti-aging. All right, so how do you include this into your routine? With the trifecta, it's obviously all in one, so there's nothing to think about. But if you were to do it separately, I would probably say you'd want to wash, then you use your hyaluronic acid product, and then you would use your other actives like retinols, vitamin C's, etc. After that. And of course, every approach has its pluses and minuses, so I can't speak for everything, but that's how I would approach it. I would try to get the hyaluronic acid into the tissues as quickly as possible before I start adding some more aggressive actives on top of it, which might impede or impact the ability for the hyaluronic acid to actually work. If there's any kind of inflammation, or you know how sometimes you put on something and your skin is like stinging afterwards, well, that's not a great thing. So that is meaning your skin's getting inflamed by that. But that's the story there. So I think I would go wash, hyaluronic acid, and then the other products. All right, so in summary, my friends, hyaluronic acid, a great and worthwhile addition to your skincare routine, honestly, or else I wouldn't have put it in ours. Minor nuances, recognize size in this case is important, small is better, and at the end of the day, use it every single day so you get the changes that you are enjoying for the long run. And don't be surprised when you use it and you see, bam, your skin looks better very soon. So if you're trying to look for something that'll improve, not like a wrinkle eraser, but improve the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, this is a great product to do it. Now, if you want to impact fine lines and wrinkles in the long run and really change your skin, this product is not going to do it. That's where you have to get into the retinols and vitamin C's and all that other stuff. I hope you really enjoyed this topic. I'm very, very happy to be able to share this information with you. I'm passionate about knowledge and empowerment, and I'm also really passionate about seeing real changes in my patients and my community. So it excites me that hopefully you'll be able to use some of this in action. If you want more information, absolutely check out our blog, KaramMD Journal. Go check that out and sign up for it. It'll be delivered every single week. You will absolutely love it. It is incredibly well written. If you haven't signed up for this channel, sign up. It's gonna be more of this type of stuff. You're gonna love it. Send it to some friends and family so they can enjoy it as well. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them below so I can see them and answer as many of them as I possibly can. All right, everyone, until next time, Dr. Amir Karam, thanks so much.